So I was up in the attic above my garage last week looking for a tote that had some bass fishing stuff in it. Now I was really just looking for some 25-pound test to make a snakehead leader, which that's going to be a cool story in a future video. Now I didn't find any 25-pound test, but what I did find was this vest. Now I hadn't seen this vest in probably 30 years, haven't thought about it, didn't even remember I had it. But when I saw it, I certainly remembered. And I remembered the day I bought it. I was 16 years old in the mid-1980s, drove my 1969 Volkswagen Bug to the Kmart in Dalton, Georgia. And I even remember loitering at the front of the store so that I could go through the line of a cashier that I had a crush on. It's really funny, the memories that things like this can bring back to the surface. And here's another fun memory. Do any of y'all remember this MEPS Trophy Fish Award? And that's something else I haven't thought about in years, but I remember very distinctly mailing them 2 Polaroid pictures of me holding big rainbow trout just so I could get these little patches to have my mom sew them on this vest. Now granted, this wasn't fly fishing. I think the rules of the program were that you had to have caught the fish on some kind of MEPS lures. And I remember using something like this Aglia, or maybe it was one of their Black Furies, but I also remember that one of these 2 fish that I got was and still is the biggest rainbow trout I've ever caught. Of course, it was a big corn-fed lunker on a pond that you had to pay to fish in, but still it was a pretty big fish. And of course, I don't have that picture anymore because it was a Polaroid that I had to mail to MEPS just to get this patch. All right, so quick note on today's pattern. It's just a no-name crazy fly, and it's really a follow-up to the simplified dry fly we did out of Pfeffer's book a couple of weeks ago. Remember we wrapped a foam body for a dry fly? Well, this one is just where we leave a long tag of thread and we color it to wrap it up through the rib. But before I tie this one for you, let me bring this story back around and to the point I want to make today. And it's that we, all of us, are involved in this great sport that is all about having fun and making memories. And we never know if this crazy fly we tie today might catch us the biggest fish of our lives next week. Or the memories we're making today, we might totally forget about until 30 years from now and we find some old fishing vest in our attic. And to me, that's what makes this sport of fishing and fly tying so cool. So there's a fly in the vise. Don't pay any attention to what colors these are. This is just a generic mayfly, and I picked these crazy colors to really show you this technique of making a body like this. And it's a pretty interesting technique and a good one to know how to do. So we'll start with a size 12, 1x long dry fly hook, and use the thread for the body color you want. Now make sure you leave a pretty long tag, maybe 4 or 5 inches. So let's just catch this in, take it back to the bend. Now catch your tailing material in, whatever you're going to use for the tail. And this is just a red saddle hackle fibers from Strong Saddle Hackle. I want to make this one about, let's go as long as the body right there. So let's catch this in, okay. That's going to be fine right there, and bury this up to the front. Now, if I didn't mention, this is a 140 denier thread. I'm using just, I stepped it up one level, one thickness, I guess, because I'm going to use this thread for the body. But before we really work on the body, now we want to color our tag. And you can do this with any dark color. If you have a light color thread, any dark color marker will work just fine. And you only have to do a couple of inches here. And I did that before I really worked on the body so that it'll have a good minute or two to dry. Now here's another tip I want to point out. Your thread will cord up on you as you wrap this body. So what you can do, I just leave my bobbin in here and then let it hang for a second and see which way it's going to naturally spin. It will start to spin toward an equilibrium, and then just give it a spin in that direction, you know, a good 15, maybe 20 turns, and that's going to flatten your thread out right there. And you can usually tell when it starts getting flat, and now it will help you make a smoother body right here. And you might have to do that a couple of times as you wrap this body. See that one, it wasn't as flat as I might need, so I'm gonna do it again. Okay, I think we're fine with that body right there. Now, this marker on this tag end of this thread, it's had, a minute or so to dry, so it should be in fine shape to just go ahead and wrap this up as your rib. Okay, that's fine. Let's spend a few extra wraps right here to lock that in, and that's not perfect. Those wraps aren't perfectly spaced, and that back one is a little bit thicker than the front ones, but that's okay. You see the technique I'm talking about, and you can do this with any colors and any type thread. So the last step on this particular fly, since it's already a crazy color scheme, I'm just going to use a Grizzly dry fly hackle dyed yellow. So let's start this a little farther back right there. Couple of wraps to catch it in. And I'm going to put a wrap behind it just to help prop that up a little bit. Now a few wraps with this stem going forward, and I'll snip this one off and put about 4 or 5 wraps of this hackle. Now be careful when you're working on your head, because that red thread might not have dried all the way just yet, so you don't want to really rub it with your fingers too much. Now if you're making a real fishing fly or presentation fly, obviously you'd want to spend a little bit of time cleaning this up, but other than that, it's just ready for your head cement and calling it done. So that's it, folks. Thanks for watching.